Hey everybody, welcome back to the 47th episode of Taps and Patience. I'm AJ with Design the Everything, here with Harrison from Precision Ingenuity. Hi Harrison, I heard your machine was in pieces.
Yeah, it was. So, yeah, I guess we can start with that. So my machine has been needing maintenance for quite a while. I think I've mentioned it multiple times on the podcast that
Yep.
I've needed to tear it apart and get into the bearings and replace everything. And so we have a job that I'm in the middle of right now because I got everything back together where basically I had to hold a thou on some build parts
Okay.
out of stainless, which I'm probably going to be doing tomorrow. So let's hope it goes well. But to be able to do that, there was enough issues showing up with my mill that I really needed to go through everything and get that fixed before I did these parts, because otherwise I was going to be scrapping parts. And it's a pretty big part. So I don't really want to scrap it. And so last week on, I think it was Wednesday, we started tearing everything apart. And I didn't get it back together until Sunday. So it ended up taking a lot longer than planned, but I also went a lot deeper into it than I planned. So initially, the only thing I was going to do was going to adjust all the gibs and the backlash. I wasn't going to do anything with the spindle. And then I found out that the X-axis thrust bearings were bad, and that was attributing to some of my X-axis problems. And so once I had to take those out and I had to order parts off of Tormach, and that was on Wednesday, I could next day it to Thursday, but then they wouldn't show up until Thursday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday, we were going to be gone pretty much all day to a Haas demo day that we had planned like a month or so ago. And so we just did second day air and had it come in on Friday while we were gone. That way we could get it all put together on Sunday. And so because of that, I had some time with the machine tore apart. I went ahead and did the spindle instead.
Can I interject something here?
Mm-hmm.
Never buy bearings from Tormach, like ever. They are not, except for the recent changes we may have been told about, but they're not name brand and they're super marked up. So you can go to, I try to remember the name of the website. It was something like bearings.com or, bearingoutlet.com or something like that. And they had nicer bearings for cheaper prices.
Yeah. So we did buy the thrust bearings, but we did not buy the spindle bearings through Tormach.
Yeah.
So we brought the thrust bearings for the X-axis. And the only reason we did that was because we didn't have time to research and make sure stuff would show up in time.
That's valid.
So going forwards, that's something that we'll definitely probably look into if we ever have to do it again. The Y-axis, while it is still holding really tight tolerances, sounds way louder than the X-axis now.
Yeah.
So the Y-axis probably needs to be done, probably relatively soon. But as for right now, there's been a major change in the Tormach. So when we first started it up, I forgot how quiet the Tormach is when your bearings aren't screaming at you. And it's been a complete shell shock for us trying to get used to like not hearing the machine sounding like it's going to blow up every time we go to cut something.
It is bearingsdirect.com. That is the website I've used before.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to look into them again because I'm probably going to have to do the Y-axis because it's the loudest thing on the machine now.
Spend $12 and get bearings for your Y and Z and a spare pair for your X while you're at it.
Yeah. Anyways, so did a lot of work, tore everything down, and got it all put back together. And so the three things that I changed, one of them was the bearings. So I watched the video from that knife maker, VC Edge, followed his video for the spindle. My spindle is definitely a lot quieter than it was, but the new bearings, now that I've got it in there and I've kind of run it up and down, there's a small vibration in the spindle.
Interesting.
But my run out is only about 0.2, which is pretty good from what I understand. Going off the video that the VC Edge guy did, His was off, I think, about a tenth, and he pulled up the Haas manual, and the Haas manual was saying that your spindle should be less than 2/10 out, 2/10 or less. So
Measured on the taper.
measured on the taper.
Hmm. I
So,
think
and
mine was
that's
like dead nuts. Like I couldn't even measure it.
yeah. So mine's about 2/10. I don't know what it was before, but it's 2/10 now. But I'm getting way better of a surface finish now than I was
Okay,
before.
well, then it doesn't matter.
So, but I did the spindle break in, which I had to run it up to different speeds for different periods of times, and we never did that on our first one, and I don't know from the factory if they break them in at all. I highly doubt it though.
They don't recommend it, or they don't not recommend it, but they don't have a recommendation to break in your spindle. So I would expect not.
Yeah, but I think it also attributes to the fact that we do a warm up routine every time that our machine lasted as long as it did. Because when I took it all the bearings apart and I looked at it, one was really bad, two were mildly bad, and then the fourth one was just kind of so. So they all needed to be replaced, but it's impressive how long it's lasted because it's been going for almost a year with it sounding like it has. Because it was about a year ago when we ran it at 10,000 for way too long. So did that, got the x-axis done, and then the last thing that I did was I got the spindle in and the x-axis in, and I ran a test part. And then Tormach actually has new, well, I don't know. I doubt they're going to make it public. The only reason they let me do this was because I have worked a lot with ClearPath motors in the past, and I kind of know how to mess with them. But they had a new firmware that I don't know if they're in development with it or if they're going to release it, but I got my hands on it from them, and I updated the firmware on my parts, and I ran the same test parts, and I compared them, and it came out better. So it did
Interesting.
make an improvement. So I saved the old config files in case it didn't, but I was able to flash them to the new ClearPath or to the ClearPath motors, and it made a visual noticeable difference.
Was it all aesthetic, all dimensional, or some combination of the two?
I would say it's probably some combination of the two. It's a lot more even. So before, there's kind of a stair stepping pattern that can kind of happen as you're using the X and Y. And the part that I made as a test part was I did a circle on top of an octagon. And so I could do a circle cut and I could see how it did progressing all the way around the circle. And then an octagon so I could see 45-degree cuts and straight cuts. And I could kind of compare them all. And with the before the firmware changed, especially on the 45-degree cuts, there was an irregular spacing for the steps not lining up. So like the y-axis would move and the x-axis would move, but they weren't synchronized properly. After the change, it still had the stair steps, like it still was not as flat as the straight Y or the straight X moves. Like those are the smoothest moves by far. But the stair stepping pattern was consistent and it was lessened. So it wasn't as deep of a gouge for the steps, and the steps were more even. And the circle you didn't really see the stair steps because it was constantly changing,
Yeah.
and the facets were smaller for the circle. So it was like it was following the path it needed to closer. Versus the other one, you could actually see the visual lines on the second one. While you could still kind of visually see them, you couldn't feel them.
Okay.
So, but they both measured fairly accurate. Like you're not talking about very much difference. It was more cosmetic than dimensional because like you might be out by a half a thou with one versus the other. So it's not an issue that anyone's really going to run into. I don't feel like, but it did help.
Okay. I feel like I should run that on my machine just to see how it stacks up.
Yeah. I just had an
Curious.
aluminum 1-inch round bar, and I did it on one end versus the other.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I have it on the same part. But, anyways, so did that. Really happy with results there. So, do you have any questions about any of that process before I go on to the next thing?
No, I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Anyone who runs a Tormach as much as we do really needs to do maintenance at least once a year minimum. And it's real easy to, especially for like, because me and Wes were sitting around talking about this. It's probably been about a year and a half since we last did this, but it needs to be done. It needs to be something that's scheduled. It needs to, you can't put it off, because even if your machine is making good parts, the difference it makes to go through and redo all that stuff, especially when if you can schedule it to a point where you're not busy,
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world. Because unexpected going down or having something come up where you have to go down that you weren't planning on makes everything very, 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 very stressful. Having a second spindle would alleviate a lot of that stress, but we don't have that yet. So when that happens, it'll be a lot less stressful, because you can have more room to put it off or to schedule around it better. But anyways, went to Haas demo day, and that was about a hour and a half drive from our shop, and got to see my first 5-axis part run in person. So that was kind of cool.
Okay.
So when we got there, they had Mark Forge that was there. They had a little corner. They had a UMC 500 that they were running some parts on. They had a wire EDM that they were cutting.
A Haas wire EDM?
No, it wasn't a Haas.
Okay. I was like, I've not heard of that machine.
It was probably the only non-Haas machine that was there that was CNC controlled. It was just a different company that just happened to be there. And then the last thing that they had was a STY25 or ST25Y. So, and that one was running some demo parts as well. And they also had UARM, who was there, and I probably talked to them the most.
Oh, did you say UR as in UR Robotics?
Universal Robotics. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was really cool. I've never seen one of those in person, so I got to kind of play around with it, and it was funny because I listened to the salesman give his pitch to several different people, and then I came up and he kind of gave me his pitch, and I started asking him all kinds of questions, and like he had a demo program. I'm like, okay, well, can you make it do this or do that? And he's like, I can't. He's like,
oh really?
Like, yeah, he did. He's like, he was an older gentleman, and he was like, because like the thing that I was asking him to do, like he could do it waypoints really easily if I wanted him to. But the thing I wanted to do is he had a demo where he had a bunch of 3D printed blocks that he was sticking in a shunt vise that was pneumatically actuated, and the shunt vise had a stop, but it was just dropping the parts in it. It wasn't setting them down pressing down and pressing over to make sure it was properly seated. I was like, well, can you just show me how it would be to do that? And he's like, I can show you how to move it. I can show you how to align it. He's like, I can't show you how to do the force stuff. He's like, I don't know how to do that. And I was like, okay, that's fair. But
he's a sales guy. He's not an engineer.
Yeah. So, but he's like, you have a lot of really good questions. I was like, yeah. I was like, you're the sales guy. Let's go. Let's make this happen. But it was kind of cool talking to him and kind of getting the sense. There's a company here who makes really high-end mountain bikes. Okay. Like their cheapest mountain bike or their average mountain bike price is in the neighborhood of 10 grand. And talking to the UARM guy and some of the Haas guys, because the UR guy, he was affiliated with the Haas reps, like he was a partnership with them. And they're going to try to get me into that factory so I can see a UR robot feeding a Haas VF3 YT.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that I can kind of get a demo and go see a production setup of a UR robot.
I mean, what do you need to see though? Like, what do you need to know that you can't learn from YouTube that you're going to learn here?
I need to talk to people who use it on a daily basis and get a sense for some things. Because it's great to see what it can do on YouTube. Everything on YouTube is probably a sales pitch, though. I want to talk to someone who's going to be like, man, this thing's great, but
Yeah.
And I want to hear what that but is.
Well, are you planning on implementing this with, well, assuming no other machines in the future, but are you thinking right now of buying one to go with your Tormach?
No, it
Okay,
would be
okay.
something that we would add to a new vertical machining center. And it would be something that we would use to automate the lathe because we don't have a dual spindle.
Okay. I was going to say, because the hard part's going to be getting it to talk to Pathpilot.
No, 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 no. No, not planning on doing that. So that was one of the questions that I was asking him that he said a lot of people ask, but not a lot of people do, is getting the U arm and having it interface with multiple machines. Because I told him, I said, man, I really want to go the U arm direction. I said, but we're a high mix, low volume is the majority of the work we do. I want to get into higher volume stuff, but most of the stuff we're doing is smaller runs. Is there any way that I can get this machine, have it on a cart, and have it interface with 2 or 3 different machines? That way, if I have a lot of parts to run of one thing, I can set it up and let it go. And so a lot of my questions were on that direction. And while it is done, and he says a lot of the small shops that are really scrappy and have to be super efficient with the money they spend, he said that's what a lot of them do. He said, but most companies will buy one and stick it in front of a machine and it'll just live there. Even if they're curious about it, they can usually afford to just let it sit because it's so productive that they
Yeah,
don't worry
that
about it
actually
most of the
checks out.
time. And so I would like to get to that point at some point, but if I'm going to get a U-arm robot anytime in the near future, it's got to pencil out in a way that I can use it in as many places as possible. And he kind of gave me a price range on it. And one thing that's interesting is Shunk was one that we talked a lot about, or not Shunk, Versabuilt. Versabuilt was one that I was talking about. And Versabuilt, according to him and according to what he's heard, is working on a robot package for mill and lathe. So it's a
Okay.
single package you can get from them that'll allow your robot to work with both a mill and a lathe.
Okay.
And so that interests me greatly. If it's something I can put on a cart, move around, and then do that. Which he also told me a really interesting story about Versabuilt that I didn't know. Do you follow motocross racing at all?
Not in the slightest.
Okay. Well, there's a clutch, and I'm going to say it wrong. It's a reclusive clutch or recluse clutch, something like that. And I don't know too much about it other than I've heard the name, but it's a really popular clutch, and I believe it has something to do with centrifugal force.
Is
Being
that
able
a
to help.
name brand or a mechanism style?
I believe it's both.
Okay.
Anyways, he was the one. He was the guy that developed it, and he developed Versabuilt to develop his production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then he had some people that really wanted him to develop the Versabuilt system that he was using for his production, and so he ended up selling the clutch making business and
Mm-hmm.
has switched over to the Versabuilt. So thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So what else? Oh, I won a few things. They had like some
Oh,
giveaways,
cool.
so I won a chip fan and
Oh,
a tool
nice.
holder. So that was kind of cool. And talked to, let's see who else. Oh, and then there was the company that installed our lathe, the movers, a local moving company. They were there, and I got to talk to the CEO of the company. I believe he was the CEO. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, he was very interested in how our business was doing, and he was asking. So we're in the northwest corner of Arkansas. Tulsa, Oklahoma is about an hour and a half away. He was asking me if we had done any work over there yet. I told him that I've been wanting to break into that market, but I haven't tried. And he's got a friend who I guess knows a lot of the manufacturing companies in that area. And he told me that whenever I'm ready to head that direction, to let him know. And he'd introduce me to that guy who could introduce me to all these different companies. So I'm probably going to try to do that and see if I can get some more local companies, which would
Can
be
we
awesome.
pause for a second?
Yeah.
Doom.
So, anyways, that's kind of the different stuff that I found at the show was making that connection. Hopefully, it'll help me get into the Tulsa area. We'll see. But it was very fun and informative to go. Definitely lost a day of productivity in the shop at a time when that was not necessarily needed. But I need to go to more of those events so I can make those industry connections. Because apart from going and seeing all the cool
Yeah.
shiny new toys, being able to find people to network with is awesome, and I really need to do more of it. So that was a ton of fun. But anyways, I've been talking a little while. Let's get into what's going on your world.
So in terms of shop production, I mean, shop production's been shop production. We've been making carabiners. We're starting to get things really dialed in. I sat down today and I took, I don't know, an hour to remove a bunch of just cycle time from my programs. I was able to get about 45 minutes off of the scales and about an hour off of the not for climbing carabiners. So that's a nice little win there. Mostly just by cranking up the surface feed that I was running the tools at. Turns out I was being a little bit too conservative, and I increased the feed per tooth just a tiny bit. So just ever so slightly stepped up those two feeds and speeds. But because there's just so much slotting on those parts, it actually made a really big difference.
That's
We'll
awesome.
see if that hurts my reliability, because I was hesitant to start bumping it up because I had something that I knew worked, and I spent so long just like making sure that everything was reliable, and I didn't want to be, switching feeds and speeds when I was also having work holding issues. So I just never took the time to dial that stuff in. So today I spent a little while, and I mean, it'll probably help us make an extra 2 or 3 batches of carabiners a week. So that's big. We will finish shipping not for climbing, or excuse me, the not so tactical Kickstarter carabiners this week. We have almost all of them machined. We have almost all of the scales machined. Our only holdup at the moment is we are waiting on some powder coat to come in. And I have some of the premium scales left that I need to cam up still, but that shouldn't take me too long.
Nice. That's awesome.
So in terms of shop stuff, things are pretty much the same. The kind of stuff that people on here will care more about is, hold on. But what I have been working on lately is figuring out what my next spindle is going to be and kind of sorting out all of the details around that. Now, I'm not quite ready to buy right now because this not so tactical Kickstarter took so long to fulfill. We weren't able to launch our next Kickstarter on time, and those are like our cash flow tent poles, and we're really low on cash right now because we were supposed to have launched a Kickstarter 4 weeks ago and we didn't. So I'm going to wait until the next Kickstarter is up and running before I put a purchase order in. But at this point, I'm definitely getting a Syil machine. It will most likely be an X5, though I am sort of considering an X7 now.
Okay, what's your logic behind why you would choose either one of them? I'm just curious.
So I'm like 80% on the X5 for a couple reasons. One, the base X5 is cheaper than the base X7. Okay. Secondly, the base X5 is nicer than the base X7. So the base X7, or excuse me, the base X5 has a 20K RPM spindle. It has a 16 tool ATC. It has, I think, double or triple the spindle horsepower. The XYZ motors, I think, are double the horsepower. And I don't even know if on the X7 you can get to those same numbers. The X5 basically used to be known as the T3. It used to be their smallest drill tap center. And that model mysteriously disappeared when they added the X5. So I think it uses kind of those bones. Whereas the X7 was a different machine there. And I don't know, they're starting to kind of merge. I think you can pay for a lot of the options to get the X7 closer to the X5. But for some reason, the X5 seems to just be better right off the block. Now, the X7 is a little bit heavier. It is a little bit more rigid. But I don't really know if I care too much about those things. I mean, I'm going to be running an 1/8 tool or a 3mm tool. Like, it'll be fine. I'm basically quadrupling the mass of the machine just moving from the Tormach. So I'm not too worried about that. Plus, the X5 is just so neat and compact. It'll fit just about anywhere. And, I can fit probably 3 X7s in this shop, no problem, without any major rearrangings or modifications to the shop.
X7s or X5s?
X7s.
Oh, okay.
And I can fit, like 9 X5. So, like, I'm not really worried about space. But wherever I go next, like, space always costs money. And if having smaller machines keeps me from needing a bigger space when we do move out of this space, like, I don't know, it's a nice little plus. Stick the X5 in a corner. It can be my new prototyping machine when I get my Hermley or whatever. And yeah, there's just not much that attracts me about the X7 other than it gets a little bit more table space. Except there is a single phase version of the X7. And that is kind of a consideration.
Is the X5 3-phase?
The X5 is only 3-phase.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, and it has the power requirements on there. This is what I have been looking into, and I need to actually call Syil and talk to them and get actual information here. But they recommend a 12 kVA power supply. And that works out to a 25 horsepower rotary phase converter, which just seems absurdly oversized.
So, just to throw out an idea, but I'm moving to a place with 3-phase power, and I do have a phase converter that I might not be needing in the near future.
How big is it?
Big enough to run a Haas ST15. I think it's a 35 amp or 40 amp. 3-phase.
40 amp at the 220 volt breaker?
70 amps at the 70 or 80 amps at the.
Yeah, the 20. Yeah, I'll take that. If I get this machine, I'll take that from you for sure.
Okay.
The timing might work out pretty well too, because there's the other thing is I'm pretty sure I could get an X7 in the shop like next weekend, but a X5 I believe is a 3-month wait right now. And in the past, Syil hasn't had a great track record of predicting when machines land.
Yeah. So, I don't think we're going to need it for any reason in the old shop. Like, I don't think Dad has any plans for it. I'd have to make sure. But there's a chance that we will have an extra phase converter laying around that it would be perfect fit for that. Okay. And what's cool is it can actually support two. It can actually support two. Like, if you read the documentation, which it's so weird, I don't understand it, but whatever. It can actually support 2 ST15s. Even though they recommended that we get a larger one, once it's up and running, it says it can pump out like 70 amps.
Yeah, the phase converters are weird. Phase converters are weird. Machine tool builders are weird about their power requirements. Because I'm like, if you do the math, I don't think it needs even like 8 kVA. Like, I think it would be probably fine at 6, which is half of what they recommend. But
you say that, but my machine will pull exactly 40 amps. And I know because I've put an amp meter on it.
Does it?
And it'll pull that no matter what's in the spindle when it's ramping up or when it's ramping up, basically. So that's a 15 horse machine. When the spindle is going full bore, trying to accelerate up, it'll dim the lights in the shop and it'll pull those. It'll pull every bit of that 40 amps.
Yeah. Okay. How many horsepower is your machine?
15.
Okay. So the nicest spindle on the X5, I believe, is 7. Correction, it's 10 horsepower. And I don't even know if that's right. I think that may include the power usage that they give you. I think also includes the chiller. So It might be like a 5 horsepower. Now I'm
Oh, does
doubting all
that
my
come with the
numbers.
chiller?
Yes.
So you can run 20K.
Yes, I know you like chillers.
I do.
Theoretically, I probably would try to avoid running it at max. But
Yeah, you would for long periods of time, but having the chiller makes that risk a lot less.
yes. I'm pretty
So
sure it has a chiller. I don't even think that's like an add-on option. That's just comes with the machine.
that's cool.
I'm trying to pull up the facts now to make sure I'm not forgetting things or making things up here. But let's see. Yeah, it says 12 kVA. The spindle motor output. Okay, the max was that 10 horsepower. The rated horsepower is 5.5 kilowatts, which is 7.5 horsepower. So
Okay.
your 15. So not mine. It's not mine. I don't own it yet. The machine that I'm looking at with a 7 horsepower spindle is giving me the same power requirements as your 15 horsepower lathe.
Well, to be fair, my 15 people
What I'm
will
saying
say
is Syil is oversizing their power requirements.
yeah.
And that can easily double or triple the cost of the non-machine install part. So like the copper we have to run, the breaker, the phase converter. Yeah. So
yeah, I hooked up this phase converter pretty much all by myself. I ran all the cabling, I did all the pipe work. I connected it to the machine, I connected it to the motor, and then I ran all the cabling to the electrical panel, and then pretty much the electricians only had to jump that last little bit.
Okay. We would probably do it all ourselves. I get my dad in here, electrical engineer, to help out. The big problem will be running the copper. When we built the powder coat booth, we installed I don't remember what gauge the wire is, but it's suitable for 30 amps of 220 volt single phase. But that's not going to be enough for the machine that I want to buy. It was basically sized for a second Tormach.
Yeah.
So we'll have to run a new piece of copper, which, man, copper is expensive.
It is, unfortunately.
But that's not too bad. So I've been figuring out power. I have the machine pretty much nailed down. There is a world where I do the math and it's like, oh, it's $10,000 cheaper to go with the X7 and get the single phase version. But I don't think so. Like that's like that option is faintly like there in the background, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I could see with two or three Syils X5s over a X7.
Yeah. I could actually, that's something to consider. I could get more, because I'm going to run out of power before space. So I could potentially get more of the X7s in here. But I don't think shoving machines into square footage is going to be my business model ever. Like,
yeah,
I'll run out of ability to finish parts before I run out of ability to make them with multiple machines. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, with your current limitation right now, if you had a second spindle, you'd be doing way better right now.
Even if it was another Tormach. If I dropped in a copy of this machine, I would have been, months farther ahead than where I am right now.
Yeah. So you're running into a hard limit of productivity, which is about right, from my experience. Having two machines with two people is kind of what you need. I imagine the ratio will change, although ironically, you end up getting more machines than you do people if one person can run multiple machines. So,
which we definitely can.
Yeah, so as time progresses, I think you will end up with a room full of machines with only one or two people actually running them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I see both of our businesses growing, is more machines to people ratio. So, and you're kind of in that inverse stage where you have two people to one machine, like ratio wise. So you really need another spindle.
Though, to be fair, we have a lot of value add processes like the powder coating, tumbling, sandblasting, and that takes a lot of time.
True.
We definitely spend more time powder coating than machining. Not in terms of spindle hours, but in terms of man hours.
Yes, but if you had a 24-hour period and you said, okay, I'm going to produce as many parts on the machine and I'm going to finish as many parts as I can, which would, or even say less, like you gave the machine 24 hours and you gave yourself 8 hours. Like, would you be able to finish all the parts that are coming off that machine in a 24-hour period in 8 hours?
Yes. Yeah, I guess right now, if we doubled our volume of parts that we were coding, I don't think the coding would take any longer. Maybe it would add 10% to the total time, but we can go to bigger batches without taking much time because it's so much time in, like you sandblast kind of everything together in a bucket and then you hang it all up on the hooks and then which that I guess would add a little bit more time. But then you put it in the oven, you preheat the parts, take it out, spray it, put them back in the oven, take it back out, spray it again, put it back in the oven. All that stuff, it doesn't matter if you're doing one part or if you're doing 20 parts, it takes the same amount of time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
But getting twice as many parts off the machines would definitely net you twice the income versus the 10% extra time to finish them.
Yeah.
So, plus you can have multiple products running at the same time if you have 2 spindles. So even though you have multiple pallets, and let's say in a 24-hour period, you could have it run one pallet, then another pallet, then another pallet, you could have parts running in tandem, which just can't be done with one machine.
And the real core business of Design the Everything is designing products and getting those out on Kickstarter. The regular sales are nice, but being able to come up with new products and launch those, that's really where we make our money.
Yeah.
And having, like I said, even if we just had a 440 laying around that we could do prototyping work on, we would be farther ahead.
Yep.
So, yeah, second spindle, big.
So, with all this production going on, do you spend a lot of your time designing new products?
Nope.
Like, what's been eating up your time if production is running fairly smooth?
It's been running smooth, but like there's still some work on it. I've been doing process improvements. I've been dealing with I had to deal with the new probe, getting that working. It's running smoothly now, but there was kind of a lot of work to get that running smoothly. I still had to cam up the premium scales, for example. I got the coins cammed up and the fixture made for those, and that took a little bit of time. I guess the answer is I've been in cam just trying to get our current stuff caught up.
Gotcha.
I have worked a little bit on future products, both CAD and CAM. I worked on the pen design. I worked on the pen cam so I can make the prototype as soon as I get machine time. But I need spindle hours right now.
That's fair.
So, and one of the other things I've been considering with this machine, it doesn't matter if we go X5 or X7, is fixturing. And I want some sort of quick change system from day one. And I've kind of gone back and forth in my brain a couple times between the Pearson palette system and the Lang system. The Lang system seems to be better in basically every way except speed. The Pearson system is faster. And I'm thinking that may be a little bit more important with a fast machine like this. It's almost like you can almost think of it as a discount Speedio instead of a machine where you have longer cycle times like the Tormach. And I still find myself even though my palette system is fairly quick and easy, I still find myself making decisions on I don't want to change the palette right now. It's not too hard. It's just 4 screws, but you got to remove them. You got to move the palette out. You got to go get the other palette. And if it was just chunk, remove, put new one in, unchunk, like so. And that's how the Pearson system is, if that wasn't clear. So let me give background to anyone who's not knowledgeable in these. The Lang system has a array of pull studs, basically. They are on either a 52 or I believe it's a 96 millimeter spacing. I would go with 52 millimeter. You have a base plate that sits on the machine that is actuated by just one like hex, kind of like tightening a vise that's in the front, which I'm sure it's not bad. It's probably quick, and I'm probably overthinking this. The Lang system to get started is a little bit cheaper, but making pallets, you have a lot more flexibility, and the like machining the pallet itself is simpler. With the Pearson system, it is just like one little knob that you pull on to release the pallet, but you're a little bit more limited on pallet sizes, a little like just in the flexibility. And then also making new pallets is a little bit more expensive and a little bit more complicated just due to the way that Pearson designed their system.
Yeah, unless you just buy the pallets from them.
Except I've done mostly all steel pallets recently, and I think they just sell aluminum pallets.
Yeah, I think they only sell aluminum.
Though
but the aluminum lasts a long time.
I use a lot of teeny tiny threads, and the aluminum strips out too easily. So,
for your clamping system, have you looked at like Mighty Bite or
for actually securing the parts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've used those plenty of times in the past. They don't work with the carabiners because the carabiners, you can't really put any sideways forces on them because they like to flex and bend.
Okay.
And mostly I'm doing plate work right now anyway, which again, if you held that with lateral forces, it would just kind of pucker up.
Yeah. Have you looked at the vacuum work holding at all?
Yes. I don't think it's really right for a long cycle time part like my carabiners are. Because there's like, 3 hours of machining on a piece of plate to get, 8 carabiners out of them. And, you accidentally pop one hole or something shifts and you lose $45 worth of titanium and 3 hours of runtime. Whereas just a couple screws is very quick and reliable.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that one stupid pallet that I designed where the material covers the mounting bolts. And man, I am never, ever making that mistake again.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Because that's also the pallet that has like 200 screws in it.
Yeah,
Speaking of screws. So I may redesign that one in the near future here.
Yeah. Coins. Did you run your coins yet?
Nope.
I saw your coin pallet.
Yeah, so. The coin pallet's done. The cam is done. Basically, the only thing that I'm waiting on is I need, to block out an hour with the machine to actually prove out the code. In theory, it's all good because I used the same recipes from the last time I did coins, but before I start running them overnight or whatever, I want to actually, stand there and watch one.
Gotcha.
And other than that, it's just spindle hours. The goal is like we absolutely positively have to finish shipping carabiners this week, or at least getting them all made this week. Yep. And the coins are immediately after that. So,
okay.
This week is of course a little bit of a weird week because it's just all around a busy week. There's something going on basically every day that eats into our day. Yeah. And which I don't know, I guess is probably just normal at this point. With the schedule planned out, it looks like, and we were waiting on a powder coat. That's the other thing right now. And when you take all of that into account, it looks like we should be able to get everything packaged up on Saturday or Sunday. And then the rest of the carabiners will go out on Monday. But then that'll be just a huge weight off my shoulders and we can really move forwards. The coins will probably be, I don't remember if it was a total of 8 hours of machining to do one side or two sides on the coins. I don't remember if I was smart enough to remember that I had to flip them when I first did that math, but theoretically I can knock those out in either 1 or 2 days. So that wouldn't be too bad. There's a little bit of hand finishing on them, but we can finish them faster than we can machine them. So that's not a problem.
That's fair.
And then it's just on to the pen. I need to make some prototypes, make sure it works, get product photography done, and we can push a Kickstarter in a week. And we were also working on a knife design, and I made a big bit of headway there, at least conceptually in the design. So one of the problems we have is we're just not set up to do blades. Like we don't have any sort of grinding equipment. We don't have any sort of heat treating equipment. All of this stuff you can't either just do on the mill or outsource. But I ran across I believe it's like a skinning knife or a hunting knife, at the very least, that you'd use to field dress your deer. And it has replaceable blades. And they are not like X-Acto knife sized blades. They're like legit full size knife blades. And so I think what I'm going to do to bypass all of the blade issues is I'm just going to make my own version of a knife that holds those replaceable blades. And that way we kind of get the benefit of both types of knife, where it's still a normal knife. You can, stab into something deeper than 1/4 of an inch, but also you don't ever have to worry about sharpening it. So it just became a bigger knife, because before it was just going to be like a 2-inch Swiss Army knife style. And now I think it's a 3-inch blade. So 50% bigger, but I think that'll be much easier for us to handle.
That'll be cool.
So I have the blade showing up tomorrow. Theoretically, along with my 20 new tool holders. And
did you get those switched over?
Yes, I did. I talked to Haas. Yeah, on our last episode, we, live on air realized that I ordered the wrong tool holders. So I got the switch over. I actually ordered more too. I think I originally ordered 12. And then I was like, well, the machine does have a 16 tool ATC and I will want some spares. And they're $25 each. So I bought 20 of them.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
And worst case scenario, I'll sell them on eBay for $50. Like,
yeah, you'll get your money back out of them. That would be sweet. We ordered a whole bunch of tooling as well from Haas, although we ordered a lot more than. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
I know you were talking about a vise. Did you ever get your vise?
All that I think is supposed to show up tomorrow. Actually, I need to look over here, but I think it was a couple $1,000s worth by the time we were, or $1,000+ by the time we were done with it. It's a big order. A lot of stuff we've been wanting to get that just kind of made sense. It's like, well, if we're doing this, might as well just get that and then get that. And okay, let's see here.
Honestly, Haas made it hard to justify not buying stuff. Like I tooled up an entire new machine with tool holders for $500. Like that's like 5 tool holders regularly.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yep. So we got the 6-inch vise. We got a 14-piece ER collet whole set of sealed collets for the lathe.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we can run through spindle coolant and not have it spraying out everywhere. We got some. We got a couple BT30 ER25 collets, kind of like the ones you just got. We got a couple of the carbide reamers for a job that we're working on, so those kind of lined up perfectly. And then we got a spindle liner and a couple roughing tools. And that's one of the orders. Maybe we placed 2 orders because I feel like we got more. Oh yeah, here's the rest of it. Chamfer mill, some more liners. So the liners is the big thing. We've been needing that for quite a while.
Yep.
So and I don't think those were on sale.
No,
unfortunately.
Do you normally run Haas tooling like on your mill, like the consumables, the end mills?
Yes and no. We've been running a lot of it, but it hasn't been like we run it until we run into a problem and try something else and it's better, and then we use the better.
Okay, that's
If
fair.
that makes sense. Because Haas tooling is just so cheap, and we have the insiders track that we can get stuff pretty fast if we run into a problem. And so, and it's really good quality stuff. It's been amazing, but there is some things like their steel stuff and stainless steel tooling does great. Their aluminum tooling isn't quite as, at least I say this, I don't feel like I get as good a finish as I do with, say, Kennametal or was it Helical Tools? Or yeah, with either of those guys, I feel like they make better aluminum. And Sumitomo on the lathe, so Haas aluminum tools versus the Sumitomo tools. The Sumitomo tools are way better finished for whatever reason, at least in our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been like, when possible, we've been running Haas, but we're not afraid to try something else if it's not working to our liking.
Because their next day shipping thing is kind of interesting to me. Because I don't run high end tools, so except for the coins, ironically.
Yeah.
But
most tool manufacturers like MSC will do next day shipping on a lot of their stuff.
But for free?
Yeah. At least it's
maybe
a free
to your
upgrade.
Area.
It might be just a free upgrade, but like it'll charge you whatever the normal shipping price is, but it's a free upgrade if you click on the there's a thing when you go to the checkout where it'll default to 2 or 3 day shipping, and if it's something that is in their warehouse, like you have to make sure like there's only certain tools that qualify for it, but if you can get something that's currently stocked in one of their warehouses, you can usually get a free upgrade to next day shipping. And it might be the volume that we're buying tools at. I don't know. I think it's for everyone, but we can get free next day shipping on most of the stuff from MSC, provided it's something that they stock in their warehouse, which is something that we try to look for.
I wonder if that's geographical, because I don't think I get that.
Oh, it comes in from all across the U.S. Like it's literally like, it doesn't matter which state it's in; it's all the same.
I feel like I only get McMaster stuff next day. I don't think I can get like, unless you pay a bunch. But
McMaster, we just got. I mean, I say just got. Somewhat recently, got the big blue or got the big yellow book and got upgraded to next day shipping for the same price as 2
days. I've always gotten next day shipping.
See, we never did for McMaster.
Again, I think it's for us. It's just geographical, but I don't know.
So,
I think the most angry I've ever been about shipping is the SGS, aka Kyocera end mills that I got. I bought like 8 16th inch end mills, and they took like a week to get to me, and they charged me $45 for shipping.
Oh my goodness!
It's like, come on, this is just dumb.
MSC is stupid. I don't know how they.
That wasn't MSC. That was direct from, or that was from a local distributor. But
no, yeah, I realized that. No, this is MSC. MSC, when we order tooling from them, it'll come in from 5 different locations, and all of them will be a massive cardboard box with one little itty bitty tool in it. And it's like, why or don't you ship that in an envelope or like a smaller box?
Ooh, I know this one. It's because they charge per weight, not volume.
Yeah, but that is still so like inefficient.
No, okay. So the cardboard dirt cheap. They charge the shipping a little bit expensive, but they charge per weight instead of per volume. The time to package that shipment, very expensive, at least relatively. And so it is way easier to have like 4 sizes of boxes and just like throw everything in instead of finding the perfect box that's just the right size. And you have to stock 20 of them, which takes up space. And then you have to pack them carefully to make sure everything fits. And oh no, you grabbed a box that was one size too small. So you go up to a bigger, no, just throw it in there, slap a label on it, throw it in the mailbox. It is cheaper and less wasteful. It just, we're only looking at one part of it.
I know, but I feel like they need a one size down box if that is their quote unquote smallest box.
Yeah,
that's what I feel. But they've done the studies like you say, so if it makes sense for them, that's fine. It's just getting all these massive boxes with an itty bitty tool. It's like, really? I mean, I can't complain because the shipping's not that expensive, and like it's not hurting us. It's just an annoyance because I know how much it costs us to ship things.
I actually have a problem where I haven't bought anything big recently, and I'm running out of cardboard because we use a laser to to custom cut cardboard inserts for our packages. Mm-hmm. And like, yes, you can use small boxes, but it just takes a lot longer to piece, 2 or 3 inserts onto each box when you can just throw a big piece on there and cut 20 out at the same time. Mm-hmm. But like we're out of big boxes.
Yeah. Have you ever looked at buying just like cardboard sheeting?
Yes, it costs money where Amazon boxes are free.
I realize that.
Yeah, no, if we got much busier, we would just buy cardboard sheeting. I like the kind of recyclability element of using the reclaimed cardboard. Like that's actually a pretty good selling point. And then like it's a win-win. 1, we spend less money. 2, customers like it because it's less wasteful. So it's kind of hard to argue with like on that point.
Yeah.
What we do when we do run out of cardboard is we go over to our local Chick-fil-A and be like, hey, can you give us some French fry boxes? And they're like, yes, please take them. We don't have enough room for them in our recycle bin. And that'll be, 2 or 3 months of cardboard.
Oh, okay. That's fair. And then all your stuff smells like chicken.
No, or fries. Yeah. One of the side effects of using the laser is things sometimes smell a little bit burnt. Mm-hmm. And actually, we just upgraded our air blast, so that's pretty much dealt with. But we've had people send us a message before and be like, why does my package smell like barbecue chips? Like, oh, it's just the laser cutter. Sorry.
That's funny. You use that laser cutter a lot, don't you?
Mostly for cutting cardboard. It gets used probably every day for cutting cardboard. We don't have cycle time issues with it. Like it runs,
No, I wasn't talking about that, but just like
5 hours.
It's kind of gotten integrated into your business where it's become a tool that you use every day.
Yeah. I would say it's like 65% a shipping tool, and it's 45% or whatever I had left, 35% for just general shop stuff, process improvements, and just like, hey, we need a box. It's been super handy for that. So do not regret that purchase in the slightest.
Yeah, that's something that we need to get, especially because I have a customer who wants us to make a whole bunch of stuff that would need a CO2 laser. So, and I have so many local people who want me to do stuff with wood. And it's like a CO2 laser could do that. A CO2 laser could do that. A CO2 laser could do that. We don't have one yet.
Yeah, the one I have, I think, was $4,000 or so. And it's like a big one.
Yeah, it's not that expensive. It's something we need to do. It's just we have other things that are like a lot higher on the need list.
You guys
right now.
Yeah, you don't need more distractions.
No. We don't need more excuses to spend money.
You could get one of the 50 watts for, I think those are under $1,000. At least they used to be. Yeah. Just for shop projects. But yeah, you don't need a 40 by 24 one like I have.
Oh, we'll probably get one of those. That's the one we want to get, is one like that. Just because of the size.
Yeah.
Because we want to be able to set it up like and cut a lot of stuff at once. Is more than anything. Because I don't want to sit in front of the machine and load a bunch of small parts. Mm-hmm. Even if it's the machine is a lot cheaper. I feel like my time's worth a lot more if I can just throw a big sheet in it and get a bunch of stuff cut.
Yeah, that's fair. I could have gotten by with a smaller laser, but I do enjoy having this one. Like,
yeah,
I did a design for a parametric table. I guess it is. I use it as a bedside table, but like we've made 4 or 5, just 3 or 4 of these parametric bedside tables. Like you just kind of plug in the length and the width, and it spits out all of your DXFs. You throw them on the laser, cut them out of 3/8 inch ply, and you can put yourself together a table in like an hour.
That'd be awesome.
So it's definitely nice for that. It does. So we added the upgraded air blast. So now it's tied into our air compressor, and that it didn't make that big of a difference on thin stuff. It makes the cuts a little bit cleaner, but I was hoping it would cut faster, and it doesn't really. But man, for thick stuff, it's world changing. Before 3/8 inch plywood was kind of a struggle, and now it's just butter.
That's awesome.
That it was like $150 upgrade to tie it in, and it was worth every penny.
I like it. So, and how many watt is your laser again?
It's 100.
It's 100 watt. Okay.
There's also 130 and 150 watts from OMTech.
Yeah,
they're just a little bit bigger than mine. I think mine's the best value because the difference between a 24 by 40 laser and the like 48 by 30 laser was like a 50% price jump.
Yeah, no, yours is probably right about the right size. Have you looked at their? This is going off into the weeds a little bit, but we're talking about OMTech lasers. Have you seen some of their new like metal fiber lasers for cutting metal?
No, I think is the simple answer. I have seen other similar companies, like I think Cloud Ray is one. I haven't seen OMTech's though.
They're starting to get into like the 1, 2, and 4 kilowatt.
Yep.
Fiber lasers for cutting metal. And that's something that we really, really want at some point. And we've been looking for a small laser cutter that could do that. And I'm thinking OMTech's going to be able to do that for us.
Speaking I need of power to get a quote. Requirements. They have some pricing, at least online here. They're between like 49,000 and 80,000 before options. Though remember, lasers need lots of power, and they also need a ton of cutting gas, which is generally oxygen or nitrogen. And generally, you need both of them. And the prices on that can outweigh the cost of the laser.
What in the world? OMTech has a new thing called a split laser.
Split laser? What? You can tell we're in the weeds now.
Yeah, we're officially in the weeds. So if you go to their fiber laser machines, they have this new one, the FM series, and if you click on it and you go into it, they have split lasers.
I have never heard of a split laser. It's not just like a two-headed laser, is it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The laser marking machines, or the big?
So if you go to machines and then you go to fiber marking, laser fiber marking, and then go to the FM series and it says new. And then when you click on that page, you'll see.
I believe that just means the laser source is external to the laser. I think basically all of this style of lasers are split. Could be wrong, but I think that's what that means.
It does have a new autofocus. Maybe that's the split laser, is the fact that it's got a laser to measure its distance.
That would be height. Nice. Yeah.
And then it's automated to move up and down. That could be it.
I would very much like one of these lasers too, so I'm just going to leave this website before expensive things happen.
Yeah.
Don't want to buy a laser and not be able to buy a mill.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke.
Maybe can I just throw one in on the financing?
Oh, they actually have pricing down on some of these. That's not bad.
Yeah, they have pricing. I don't know. I'm a laser snob. I've ran high-end lasers, so And actually, yeah, it would never make sense for me to buy a laser because I still have connections in my old company. I can be like, hey, Carrie, can you throw these parts on?
Yeah, it's going to be a little while before we have to get a fiber laser, but that's something we really want to do at some point, and that is way cheaper than I was thinking it would be.
Again, don't forget about all the other costs that go along with it.
True. But we're going to be in a new building, so...
So money will magically appear from the walls.
No, but it'll be, I think, less expensive to get something like that installed. Because we're going to already have all the infrastructure in place.
Well, even if the install was free, like, you're still going to have to pay for the gas. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess, again, I'm probably overcomplicating this because I came from doing this in a big industrial, high-volume environment, and it's like, I guess I'm thinking of all the things you would need for that, like the big liquid nitrogen tank outside.
Oh, yeah.
Which you could probably just buy, I don't know what they're called, but they'll take like 6 welding tanks and they'll kind of tie them together on a manifold. That would probably be enough for you, and they would just deliver one of those every week or something. Hi, Harrison, we're close.
Sorry, I just dropped something and I was just like, where did it go?
All the people watching this as a video got to see a nice little close-up of Harrison's forehead there.
Yeah. Whoops.
Oh, speaking of meta podcast talk, on the episode we did with Black Fox Machining, his video had issues, and we lost a little bit right at the end of his video, like the last 3 minutes. And so we lost his like call to action segment. So if you listen to that podcast and you're like, wow, where can I buy his stuff? He's on Instagram at Black Fox Machining, and his website, I believe, is Black Fox Machining. I don't actually know. I should have checked that. But go to his Instagram and you can find his website there. So,
yep.
I'm sorry, Ben, for cutting out your call to action. It was your internet's fault.
See here. We can go on the new machine weeds here pretty quick. I was trying to think if there's anything else from the week.
I need to get my mill running for the night run, and I'm tired. Okay. So shouldn't we just press the button?
Worries. Let's do it.
The outro music nobody else can hear.
Did you ever get that figured out?
Nope.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
I like the music. I'll listen to it.
Yeah, we'll listen to the music. Well, guys, it's that time where we're getting tired and we're going into the weeds, so we're going to tell everyone goodbye before it turns into a complete train wreck. So,
bye. Oh, did I jump again?
I think you jumped again. I gotta do the call to action, man.
I just had to.
All right.
There's like 4 people that have never finished an episode before and don't know what that is, so.
That's true. Okay. So this is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity, signing out with AJ from Design the Everything. Like, comment, share, tell everyone.
Bye.